Golf Central on YouTube is brought to you by the new Paradigm Woods and Irons from Callaway.
It's been a bit of a hectic week, as you can imagine. When you first joined the PGA Tour Policy Board back in November of 2022, what was your opinion on the way that the PGA Tour Live dynamic had unfolded to that point?
Well, when I joined in November, obviously a lot of water had been through the dam, and we had the condition that we had, which is live and a lot of animosity and a very divisive environment. So I went on with my eyes wide open with the hope at some point to be part of the resolution. And my view early on was that we didn't understand a lot of things that were going on. So at some point in time, it would be important to talk to the principal, what I call the spiritual leader of a deal. Every deal, every organization has a spiritual leader. In this case, I think it's obviously Yasser. And I thought it was important to visit with him, get to know him, try to understand what were his goals in golf, and is there something we could do together where we could unite the game and put all what has happened behind us. I met him. We had a free flow of ideas. I think golf is a force of good in the world. And golf is very important to me. You know that, George. It's been a very important part of my life. And anything I can do to unite the game, to get some of these issues behind us, and to bring golf to every corner of the world, I think the world will be a better place. I don't mean to be that idealistic about it, but I do believe it's hard to dislike people that you play golf with. And the more we can share experiences, the more we can get to know each other, the more we can improve our whole world. Now, specifically, and I think both Matthew and Justin Rose, I thought those were great interviews. I think that obviously there's going to be some issues ahead. Whenever you do a deal like this, there are two things that are very important. One is confidentiality, and the other is time. And both confidentiality and time have destroyed all deals. So we worked as quickly as we could, as thorough as we could. Obviously, there's detail that has to be worked out, and there's going to be some element of relying on each other to do what's right for the game. And then obviously confidentiality, you have so many people with so many vested interests that if you really set out to do this, it's impossible not to have people look things through their own lens. And if you were benefiting in some way, and it would be, and the idea of a consolidation and peace, and one organization was negative, if that confidentiality was breached, the deal would break. So I think we all acted in good faith. I think we have an agreement in principle that we can, unite the game of golf and get everybody focused on the things that Matthew and Justin were just talking about.
Jimmy, you have a very savvy business mind. As a PGA Tour Policy Board member, you're able to peek under the hood, very abreast of where the PGA Tour currently stands. So how much of this partnership was due to the fact that the new PGA Tour model was potentially heading down an unsustainable path?
Well, George, actually, I thought about that very carefully, and I don't know how savvy I am, but I can read a balance sheet, and I felt somewhat the opposite. I felt the game, both from observing it and then looking under the hood, the tour was in as good a shape as it had been. We had good rulings on cases in London and in San Francisco. We were in a very secure position. So it was important, as I talked to Jay from when I went on the board, that when the outreach occurred, we would try to be at our strongest position so that if there was something that would in any way hurt the game of golf, well, we could walk away from whatever deal at whatever point we were at in the discussion. So we waited till, frankly, after the ruling in London, and after we had gotten through and the players, basically, we put together the 24 idea and the schedule, and I felt really good about where we are. And obviously, over time, recouping some of the some of the reserves that we have spent to get there. But we felt very good from a sponsorship standpoint, a media standpoint, a revenue standpoint, a legal standpoint, that at this moment in time, this was the time to have a conversation, because you don't want to have a conversation unless you can walk away from it. And I felt very, very secure at any point in time that if anybody, forget about me, most importantly, if Jay felt that everything about this wasn't set for our players and we weren't in the best possible position and we couldn't then unite the game from that position of strength, we should walk away. And, you know, there were tense moments and you're getting to know somebody and you're drinking out of a fire hose and you're trying to do it all confidentially and you're running all around the world to try to accommodate each other's schedule. But we got there. And I think we have something that's very, very powerful and will be very good for the game. And instead of everybody just paying lip service to growth of the game, we can actually now really set out to do some things that we can focus on what everybody needs to focus on, which is the great game of golf.
Jimmy, the casual fan looks at this and wonders, how did the PGA Tour partner up with the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, given how attractive a partner the PGA Tour is, along with the DP World Tour? When you reverse engineer what transpired over the last 2 to 3 years, was the PIF the lone capital option, or were there other private equity options or conversations that could have materialized?
Well, obviously, and to your point, George, the PIF was not the only option. And the tour is not in a position where it needs any financial help right now. Now, obviously, things can change. Economies can change. I don't want to knock on wood, but I don't know that it's ever been in a stronger position. But the reality is there's a lot of things that we can do in the game of golf and a lot of things we can do together. Now, if PIF, if LIV didn't exist, you know, who knows? But the PIF has, I think they have about $100 billion invested in the United States, and they're very involved in the United States economy. So maybe to the casual person, they don't understand the presence that they have, but they're very, very involved. Now, they also are very involved in sport. And as my friend Rory said, you know, they want to get invested in the game. And having studied and thought about this for Jay for a long time, meeting with heads in Washington, talking to people about, we became comfortable. I'm very personally comfortable, and I look at this very seriously, as you can gather. And we built a vehicle that is not defensive for capital, but rather can be opportunist. So if we get through a difficult time, or regardless what happens, if we have opportunities that we could really benefit, that's what we want to do. I kind of tried to take a page out of my alma mater's book, is that we built a lot of the great buildings in Notre Dame during the Depression because we had the ability to do that. So we're in a very good place now. And if the economy gets difficult, or if different things occur, or if opportunities present themselves, it's good to have a partner that has the ability to act quickly. And we're going to develop this new co. I think there's going to be a lot of benefits for a lot of people as we further it out and develop it. And I'm excited about what that opportunity is. But really, I'm more excited about the inside the rope opportunity, which is that the game of golf is going to head to a harmonious place after a couple really tough years. And I'm most worried about our players and the fact that we stuck together and that they didn't go. So we have to make sure that whatever it is that we finalize, that they feel very good about their decisions. And I think we can get there. I don't think it's going to be easy, and I don't think everybody's going to agree. But you know, I knew that when I went on the board in November.
Jimmy, I'm assuming you're bound by confidentiality, so I won't ask you how large the access to capital is with the PIF. But you had been very vocally outspoken in your criticism of LIV and their leadership in the past, even last year, quote, saying, I would not want to work for them. Matter of fact, as president of Seminole Golf Club, you ban LIV players from the Seminole Pro member. So what led you to changing your opinion?
Okay, I'll try to take that a step at a time. I support the PGA Tour. So the PGA Tour has banned LIV players, and it still has. And there will be a process. We're going to finish the season. We're going to evaluate LIV. We're going to evaluate what are the positive things that can be done. You know, and again, when we say we, it's Jay Monahan and his team, all right? And we'll try to do whatever we can to enhance it and across the world. As to my position in Seminole, I support the PGA Tour yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And they were not members of the PGA Tour. And so I wanted, you know, the PGA Tour is critical to our event. The PGA players get first dib. And technically, George, I didn't ban them. I just had them way down on the waiting list. And unfortunately, we had enough PGA Tour players to play in the event. I say that a little tongue in cheek, but you're right. I support what the tour's position on that. Now, as far as my position changing, my position has not changed. I think one of the dynamics, in fact, that led to constructive conversation between Al-Rumayyan and myself is that I may be one of the only guys in the world that's not looking for any money from Yas. I have had a very good career. I had good parents. I got a good education. I was able to be fortunate to go down to Wall Street. We were able to do well. And I don't have a lot, but I have enough to get me to the finish line. And I don't need anybody else's money, okay? Now, the fact that I don't need or want and don't want to work for, you know, the PIF is just the reality that I like the fact that when I speak to him, I can speak basically as on peer. I'm not trying to there are no fees involved here. Obviously, anything that we did, we do for, there's no money exchanged hands. I don't want any money from him. I'm not looking to be on a board of anything. I don't want anything. What I want is to do good for the game of golf and to help the PGA players and to help the PGA board. And I can do that by not working for him and not, or anybody for that matter. So now, as far as investments are concerned, I've worked with a lot of private equity firms. I'm invested in a lot of private equity firms that have taken money from the PIF, and I understand that, and I'm totally comfortable with that. So I think what I said is I wouldn't want to work particularly for the fellow that was running it at the time. That has not changed, and I think I also would not want to work for any sovereign wealth fund. I'm very comfortable being of my own word, having people, when I say something, it is uncompromised. It is just the truth as I see it. I'm seldom wrong, but I'm never in doubt. I get that. But what I say, I mean, and I'm not held because I'm captive in any capacity whatsoever. Does that explain my position, George?
That does. The question I would have when you say not work for any sovereign wealth fund, I understand in the memorandum of agreement, it puts the PGA Tour in administrative control, but to follow the money. So what do you say to those who will look at this partnership and simply say that the Saudis bought golf and are now in control?
Yeah, there are people who say a lot of ridiculous things, and it's hard sometimes to listen to them. And in the last couple of days, there's been some things said that been hard for even my family to hear, and I feel sorry for my children, but I appreciate their support, okay? But under the heading of insane, you can put that one, okay? We first of all, CEO, to quote Yasser, to quote Michael Klein, who did the deal, Greg Monahan is the CEO of the tours, okay? Now, we are going to establish a new code that is in the very preliminary stages, but we're going to be looking for opportunities. In those opportunities, the tour will always maintain control, 100%, regardless as to what is in there. Now, the PIF, for example, has many times and done quite well by being a minority investor in a lot of fantastic companies that have done a lot of good and have thrown off tremendous financial benefits. So they understand, and they have no problem, assuming they're okay with the manager who's running it, to make minority investments. By definition, as much as I like the people I dealt with, they should, the game of golf is too important. The legacy of the PGA Tour is too important. The people that we have in place have too much experience that we have no desire, no need. There's no way on God's green earth that we're going to give up control. I don't know how else to say that. And as far as the numbers that I'm hearing that have been thrown around, our goal is to find good opportunities and to do things that can really promote the game. Hopefully in the taxable entity, in the commercial entity, will obviously throw free cash flow, and it will benefit our players and benefit the game and benefit benefit the tour itself. If it does that, it should also benefit the investors, all right? And that's exactly what we're going to try to do. But this how you can buy anything without control is silly. And just this notion that this is just going to happen. I mean, I've done a few deals. I understand something about control. Ed Herlihy, who's the managing partner of Wachtell Lipton, I think he understands something about control. I can assure you that is not ever going to happen. And we can't do it. And as I said at the beginning of the discussion, the time to meet was the time when we could walk away at any point in time. Now, that's also true with the other side. They have tremendous resources. If they're unhappy with how they feel about us, or if they're unhappy about what we believe, and what I believe will tell you, I believe that the PGA Tour is the best run organization and is the premier tour in the world. And I like to do my part to make sure that happens. If they're uncomfortable with that, they could have walked away in 1 second. And if we were uncomfortable, namely, we're not going to turn over control to anybody, because it's not just a financial driven thing. It's about the game of golf. And there is really very little after my faith, my family, my friends, and my health that is ahead of that. The game of golf is right there. And maybe Notre Dame too, but that's, I don't know how else to say that, George, but I can't be more emphatic about it than that.
Message received on my end. Given the PGA Tour's rhetoric and how much of a flashpoint topic this was over the past year, and what Commissioner Jay Monahan said at this very tournament last year at the RBC Canadian Open, the 9/11 Families Group has been very critical of this move. While the U.S. government does not officially pin 9/11 on the Saudi government, as you know, 15 of the 19 hijackers were Saudi Arabian. There have been investigations into potential links. You said last year you wouldn't be the fairest judge of Saudi involvement in golf because of how many of your coworkers died in the Twin Towers on 9/11. Has your opinion changed there?
Not one iota. Okay, and let me address that. All right. I believe yesterday on your show, Jay said that no players should have to stand there and answer that question. Jay's taken responsibility for what he said, and Jay has evolved to where we're at. And as far as I'm concerned, and let's be specific, okay, on 9/11, all right? Every day, the first thing I think about is that. Several times during the day, I think about it. And the last thing I think about at night is that. That has not changed since that day. And I'm not alone in that. I would guarantee that every one of those family members has that same condition. And it is just a reality of how unbelievably sad and awful that day was. So I understand that. And I am quite certain, and I have had conversations with a lot of very knowledgeable people, that the people I'm dealing with had nothing to do with it. And if someone can find someone that unequivocally was involved with it, I'll kill him myself. We don't have to wait around. But the reality of it is that we need to come together as a people. Even in our country, we have too much divisiveness. And at some point in time, whether it's our view of the Japanese or our view of the Germans, there is a point in time where you have to say, let's try to get to know one another. Let's try to understand. Let's try to demonstrate by example. Now, I'm not taking a stand on any country and whatever their position is. What I'm trying to say is, I believe that we should not run away from our differences, and we should get to know each other and basically make it difficult so that the extreme, vicious, immoral aspects of the people of the world we don't have to have a family deal with what we dealt with 20 plus years ago. That, as awful as it was for me, it was way worse for other people. I can't imagine if one of my children were involved. So I have a real empathy, okay? But I'd like to do something about it. And I'd like to make sure that some other poor guy that just goes to work one day, that he doesn't have to go through what we went through. And I think that starts with communicating, not just with all people all around the world. And I'd like to do my part in that. I don't know if that answers the question, George, but that's how I feel.
Jimmy, that does. I want to thank you for being so generous with your time here on Golf Central pregame. I know we could talk until the sun goes down on this subject matter. We have the first round of the RBC Canadian Open coming up. One final question before we let you go. Spinning it forward, what will your role be moving forward as both sides collaborate on the framework that will be the new entity for profit reshaping men's professional golf?
Well, I'll do whatever the tour players, the members of the pack, Jay, Randall, Ed, Mary, Mark, whatever they think I can do to help, I'm there to help. I think it would be good initially if I was around for a little while, just to make sure that we get along here, which I think we will. And then ultimately, when all the issues are dealt with, and some of the venom and some of the self-centered concerns, as we get through that, and we come with a methodology where people can re-enter, just what Justin Rose said, when we establish what the criteria will be, and there needs to be something that people that didn't go, people that stayed with us, they need to feel as if, they feel good about it. And I still don't want it to be just so outrageously punitive in nature that people that want to watch other people, I want to try to get a balance and make sure that while everybody's needs are heard and felt, that we do what's right for the game. And I'd like to do that for a while. And then when I feel like that's done, I'll be adios.
Understood. Jimmy, a big heartfelt thank you on my end for spending the time here on Golf Central pregame.
Appreciate it, George.